We know that we were there on the 16th of August this year, armed with either R4s or R5s. Would you like to answer the question? What were they doing in an area where there was a labor dispute and the intention was to disperse and disarm some of the people of the 3,000 that were there?
Chair.
Yes, the witness has told us he wasn't there. He thinks he was on leave. He's not an expert in the functions of the Special Task Force or the National Intervention Unit or the Tactical Response Team. I would suggest that these questions can more profitably be asked of subsequent witnesses who come, who have knowledge. I understand sometimes one asks questions of the first witness to get answers to embarrass later witnesses, but I don't think that this witness is of a kind to give you the sort of meaningful answers with which you can embarrass any of the later witnesses. So I don't know this is a profitable line, but you must obviously follow your own course.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just put the other. What do the tactical response team do in the police?
As far as I am aware of, the tactical response team was instituted to assist with medium risk or higher risk operations. Since there's only one task force unit, they might not always be quick enough to respond to a scene, and at least there will be somebody there to take charge in the meantime and provide a more experienced level of knowledge that the normal policeman on the ground might not have.
And
utsho ke xa ithetha ngaba kuthiwa technical response team i-TRT into yokuba baye baze noncedo olukhawulezileyo kwimeko apho kungabo nobungozi obugqithiseleyo ingakumbi apho amanye amapolisa bengenawukwazi ukuthi afike kuloo ndawo kwenzeka kweso sihlakalo ngokukhawuleza.
do they use R4 and R5s?
As far as I'm aware of, yes.
Ba uvumelana no Mr. Bizos ESC umnumzana uVessels kuba wona lo mapolisa asebenzisa R4 kunye ne-R5 imachine gun ezo.
And what about the National Interaction Unit? I beg your pardon, yes. Intervention, I misread it, sorry. The National Intervention Unit, what do they do?
Again, as far as I know, as far as I have the knowledge, is that they are, again, slightly a step up from the tactical response team members, slightly more advanced training, again, to assist with higher risk than, again, the people in the street has knowledge about.
Uthi ke aba basanda ukuchazwa kuthiwa National Intervention Unit ngabafumene uqeqesho oluphangaleleyo olubanzi bona bafumene uqeqesho oluninzi nabo basebenza kwimeko apho kunobungozi obuninzi.
And what does the K9 unit do?
K9 unit, again, makes use of dogs with the tracking of suspects, finding of various materials, and assist with any K9 operations that might be needed.
Yes.
Utsho ke abo ke bamapolisa kuthiwa bona basebenza kwi-K9 ngabasebenza ngezinja ziyasetyenziswa ke izinja ezi ukulandela imikhondo yabarhanelwa kwakunye nezinye neyiminye imisebenzi ezinja ezithi zisetyenziselwe yona.
Now, the rifle number 5 on Exhibit B. What is that used for?
It appears to most common usage is for hunting purposes and sporting purposes.
I beg your pardon, I didn't hear that.
In most common usage, as it appears there, would be for hunting or sporting purposes.
Kulo mfanekiso ke number 5 apha kule ncwadi kukho lo mbhaxa bebonisiwe na Stephen neFrekekir kakhulu kuthiwa usetyenziswa kwezemidlalo kunye nasekuzingeleni.
Would it also be used, if there was a need for it, to be used by a sharpshooter to take out, if I may use the expression, any particularly dangerously armed individual in a crowd?
Yes, that would also be another usage of it.
Yes.
Ubingakwazi ke le mbhaxa usetyenziswa nakumuntu oyincutshe ekudubuleni xa edubula umuntu onobungozi kakhulu phakathi kwesihlwele eso.
And the submachine gun, paragraph 6, what is that used for?
Submachine guns are normally used for very close quarter operations where the reduced size of the firearm would make it more maneuverable in confined spaces. In a situation where there's maybe where people need to penetrate in a house or where there's a lot of work around confined spaces in and out of a vehicle, those kinds of operations.
Le isando uchazwa ke yona submachine gun isetyenziswa apho ke ngoku kwindawo encinci khona apho le izinye olunye uhlobo belingenosetyenziswa izinye machine gun wenze umzekelo kwindawo ekufana naxa kungenwa kwindawo efana nendlu okanye kwimoto.
And in square number 8, the second and third, will you call them bullets?
Cartridges, sir.
Cartridges. Are they used in R4 and R5?
I cannot, from this view, determine the caliber. The R4 and the R5 rifles are 5.56 by 45 millimeter caliber rifles. Looking at the picture like this, it's difficult to determine, but I can say they are similar in shape than that of a 5.56, which the R4 and the R5 are chambered for.
The ammunition used in R4 and R5, is it certainly lethal?
Yes, sir, it is certainly lethal.
Uyavuma naye into kuba ezimbumbulu silapha ku number 8 kule ncwadi ibonisa ezimbumbulu yesithathu neyesibini zifana nezisetyenziswa ku R4 no R5 nazo zinobungozi.
Not only do they wound, but they are specially designed to do damage, particularly to internal organs, so that death must almost of necessity follow.
The 5.56 by 45 millimeter cartridge was developed by the USA, for the military operations, due to the fact that it creates a severe wound and has the capability to inflict serious damage. And so yes, it was designed to inflict damage.
Uyavuma into yokubana olu hlobo ke alibiza i-5.6 lwembumbulu esetyenziswa ku-R4 ne-R5 zenziwa kumhlaba waseMelika zenzelwe into yokuba zikwazi ukukhupha amanxeba okanye umenzakalo emntwini. Ngoko uyavumelana kunye no senior counsel Bizos ukuba nyani zinobungozi.
Why are you afraid to use the word death?
So a serious wound can certainly cause death. There is, however, a theory from the military, from the US, which states that the cartridge was also designed to such a state that it would inflict such a wound that it would take 2 or 3 soldiers from the battlefield to carry the wounded soldier to the back, thus making less soldiers available on the front line, and also having an effect of inducing fright to the enemy soldier. If someone, in my instance, if in my thought of view, if it's just designed to kill and not just incapacitate, then it would not have the same effect.
Uyachaza into yoba bayachaza ke eMelika xa bethetha ngezimbumbulu into yokubana ukuba ijoni belinodutyulwa bekuzawufuneka into yokuba amajoni amathathu akwazi ukuthi amthwale lo mntu. Loo nto bizokwenza into yokuba inani lamajoni ngoku liye liphunguke. Ngamanye amazwi loo nto yenzelwe into yokuba iintshaba zikwazi ukuthi bathuse okanye babalekise iintshaba zabo.
Are there any fundamental differences between the R4 and R5 and AK-47s?
The basic method of operation are very much the same. The biggest difference between them, sir, is the caliber.
Uthi indlela ezisebenza ngayo i-R4 ne-R5 kunye ne-AK-47 azahlukanga. Into ehlukileyo ile ayibiza i-caliber.
They have one thing in common, to cause death.
Well, they are certainly both capable of causing death, yes, sir.
Uthi zonke zingakwazi ukuthi zikhokelele ekuswelekeni okanye ekufeni komntu.
Now, in connection with rubber bullets, do you know whether the courts in our country have expressed any view about the use of rubber bullets?
No, I'm not aware of any specific instance.
Are you aware whether our courts have expressed any view about the use of lethal force?
I'm aware that it has been stated that lethal force should be a last resort, and there should be levels of escalating force, and it should be used last.
Uyatsho ke umnumzana uVessels xa ibuza into yoba uyayazi uba ngomyolelo okanye owayeke wakhutshwa inkundla apha xa ixesha ipha amapolisa umgaqo okanye indlela funeka ayisebenzise xa ezosebenzisa amandla awo ebantwini. Uthi uyazi into yokubana kukho imigaqo ekufuneke ilandelwe nokuthi xa bezothi ke ngoku basebenzise ukunyanzela abantu okanye basebenzisa amandla kufuneke ibe isisombululo sokugqibela eso.
In your training, have you been referred to any of the passages in the law reports or in the statutes of what lethal force means, what self-defense means? Have you been trained in that at all?
I am stated to go and perform my firearms competency within the next week or 2, sir, where I do believe that that these subjects will be handled and be better explained to me.
Uthi ke xa ibuzwa ngombuzo into yoba wake wafunda xa ibuzwa into yoba kwafundwa iincwadi zomthetho ezithetha ngokuzikhusela komntu nobungozi. Uthi ke naye umnumzana uVessels xa iphendula kwixesha elizayo kukhona ke ngoku iqeqesha zolufumana ukholelwa into yokubana ezi zinto abuza ngazo usenior counsel thwathaca okanye bazawuthi nazo bathethe ngazo bamfundise.
Are you aware whether there has been any controversy among lawyers or among the police in the recent past about the use of rubber bullets and under what circumstances they should be used?
I'm aware of a letter stating that circulated amongst the nodal point emails that, as far as I can remember correctly, and I'm speaking under, I might be wrong, that the use of rubber bullets should be stopped until further notice.
Uthi ke uke weva nongona kuba bawenza impazamo angalungiswa. Uthi ke ubeke wava kukho incwadi ethile kanye leta kanye email ebikade ithunyelwa kwindawo ezehlukeneyo apho kuthiwe make kumiswe ukusetyenziswa kwembumbulu ezirapha kude kufikele ixesha elithile apho kuzawuma kuvakala khona bakuzokwenziwa ntoni na.
Can you remember whether that was directed, if my memory serves me correctly, by the minister before or after the 16th of August?
As far as I can remember, the letter also stated, if I can just continue with my previous statement, that the use of rubber bullets should be
I'll help you, at least revisited.
It should be, sorry, my English escapes me, should be authorized by the commander.
Mag je getuigenis in Afrikaans gee as jy wil? As daar enige deel van die getuigenis is waar jy onzeker is oor die correcte Engelse uitdrukking, jy kan maar Afrikaans oorslaan en die tolk sal dan vir jy vertolk. Biskop Siauka, toe hy getuig het, bestaat hy met gevra of hy in Zulu kon voortgaan en ek het toe verlof vir hom gegee. Gee dieselfde verlof vir u wat Afrikaans betref.
Baie dankie. As far as I can remember, I cannot really recollect when the letter was stated. I do remember working through it. Unfortunately, there are many emails coming through. As far as I can remember, as I say, it needs to be authorized by the commander on site. And if I remember correctly, it did mention something of that it needs to be revisited.
Uthi ke le mba wale ncwadi okanye le email bikade ithunyelwa nangona ke bingakagunyaziswa ngucommander kodwa ke uthi beke kwatshiwo intoba lento yokusetyenziswa kwembumbulu zerabha funeke iphononongwe.
Chair, for the correctness of record, it is not the minister. The documents regarding the use of rubber bullets are by the Divisional Commissioner Operational Response Services, General Mawela.
I think that that's the letter which was referred to, which we haven't got yet. The letter of the 20th of December 2011, I think I'm correct, which
Yes.
Advocate Pillay, in her capacity as clerk of the papers, is going to give us on Monday.
Yes, I'm sorry
That's
that
correct.
I got the author wrong, but
In Ms. Corsi Thomas's absence, you shouldn't put questions like that, particularly when you're not referring to her client, but somebody else.
yes.
Well, Mr. Chair, in her absence, I am available to deal with certainly concerned.
Comments I made. The minister is still represented, but anyway, carry on.
Thank you. It was clearly whoever, we know now, and thank Mr. Semenya for drawing our attention as to who signed it. But it was before the 16th of August, wasn't it?
I must admit I cannot recollect. So I cannot recollect a full date.
Can we just put the date on record with Mr. Semenya's? I haven't got it handy.
Bezos, I don't want to interrupt you unnecessarily, but I don't know that you're asking questions of someone who's really able to answer them. but it relates to matters that are already before us. We've already got we've been promised, and full reference has been made to the letter of the 20th of December 2011, which we're going to get on Monday. It was qualified by a subsequent letter, which is before us, Exhibit S, which was dated the 20th of July 2012, whereas I understand, as was explained to us, rubber was stopped altogether in December 2011, and then it was subsequently qualified, and rubber came back in the form, not of rubber bullets, but rubber balls, in terms of this letter of the 20th of July 2012, which was just under a month before the 16th of August. Yes. Now, that information was really before us. Now, I don't know what point with respect is served by asking this witness, who's not in that division, doesn't know anything about it, these questions. It just takes time, Mr. Bezos, I'm sorry.
I accept that.
But I'm not saying that in a critical sense, but I'm just pointing out to you my approach to the matter.
I raised it because the witness wanted the matter of the rubber bullets in one of his previous answers, and that is why I raised it.
Ugqiba uchaza ke ngoku uCommissioner ku-Senior Counsel uGeorge Bizos, umnumzana uGeorge Bizos ukuthi kwakukho incwadi eyayibhalwe ngomhla wama-20 kuDisemba ku-2011 yokuba makuke kumiswe ngokusebenzisa iimbumbulu zerabha. Uthi ke emva koko kwaye kwavela enye ileta yesibini eyaphumayo ngomhla wama-20 kuJulayi ngo-2012, apho ke ngoku kwaguqula kwathiwa endaweni yokuba makusetyenziswe ii-rubber bullets makusetyenziswe ezi zinto bazibiza nge-rubber balls. And ngelo xesha kwaphuma leyo ncwadi inyanga ngaphambi kokuba kwenzeke le nto yenzekayo isehlakalo.
How reliable are R4s and R5s? Do they often jam?
They were designed to work under adverse conditions, and in that case, they certainly are very reliable. Given proper maintenance, they are probably one of the most reliable rifles or assault rifles on the market.
And not likely to jam?
Not likely to jam given correct operation and correct maintenance.
Uthi ke kunokwenzeka yena umzambe xa ibuzwayo akunokwenzeka into yokuba ezi machine gun xa umuntu esebenzisa ixinge ingakumbi xa uthi udubula ngayo ingakumbi xa ukwazi ukuthi uyiphathe kakuhle nokuthi lo muntu uyisebenzisayo ayisebenzise kakuhle ngoba i-machine gun umuntu angakwazi ukuthi athembele kuyo leyo.
Can you give us some idea of how many bullets can be discharged by an R4 or R5 in 8 seconds, more or less?
I can quickly try and work it out.
Please try.
Siyabona ke usazilungiselela umnumzana uVessels ngoba usandobuzwa ngoku into yoba kwimizuzwana esibhozo i-R4 ne-R5 zingadubula ii-bullets ezingaphi na. Nango ke usaphethe i-calculator yakhe usadibanisa amanani.
I would expect that anywhere in the region of about, in 8 seconds, on full automatic fire, anywhere between 30 to 70 rounds.
30 to 70.
Uthi ke kulo mizuzwana esibhozo benolindela into okubana xana ibekwe into yoba ikhupha iimbumbulu ezininzi umuntu abamba ixesha elide ngayo ukudubula iimbumbulu ezingaphuma ke kwimizuzwana esibhozo zingaba ngamashumi 30 kuya kumashumi 7.
Yes. Just want to go through the notes that I have not left anything out, Mr. Chairman. You don't know much about water cannons, presumably, nor about gas.
No, that's not my area of expertise, unfortunately.
Uthi ke yena akafumananga uqeqesho akanalwazi ngezitraka ke sizibone zamapolisa ezitshiza abantu ngamanzi okanye i-tear gas.
And I think I'll leave it there, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bizot. Mr. Musi, are you are you junior to Mr. Mpofu? Have you got any questions?
That is so, Mr. Chairman. I've got a few questions.
Proceed.
Sir, you referred to residue that would be left on a person when a gun is fired. You recall that?
Yes, I do.
Uthi uyakhumbula ke into yoba utshilo into yoba ikhona ke le rhuluwa iye isale emntwini xa kudutyulwa.
Now, does that apply to all the firearms that were referred to in the document earlier?
It applies to all of them. Yes.
Uthi ke zonke ezigani le nto besandoyichaza iyakwazi ukwenzeka xa uzisebenzisa zonke.
Now, the residue, how do you obtain or get hold of the residue that is left on a person?
The residue is collected by the use of a residue or a PR collection kit. Unfortunately, again, that falls under the scientific analysis unit, and we have a basic knowledge of how it is collected. I do not, unfortunately, know how it is analyzed, and as it falls out of my expertise again.
Uthi ke ngoku ukuze uzokwazi ukuthi uzofumana lo rhuluwa isele emntwini ikhona ke le nto ayibiza i-PR collection kit. Uthi ke ngelishwa yena akafumananga uqeqesho kwelo cala kodwa zizinto zekiti ezisetyenziswa ngoososayensi.
So you able to obtain that residue within a period of how long?
As far as I have received instruction in this, it depends on a couple of factors. The residue is very fine. It is easily lost by wiping the hands against clothing or by washing the hands. Even factors such as wind can determine how much can be found and how long it can be found. So it's normally necessary to, as quickly as possible, as far as my knowledge goes, to try and test for this.
Ukuthi ke ngoku xana ke ngoku le rhuluwa kanye lo mgubo lo ungekho mninzi kakhulu uyaxhomekeka nakhona into yokuba umntu akahlikihlanga izandla iimpahla zakhe okanye nomoya uyakwazi ukuthi uyisuse kakhona nokuhlamba izandla xa uhlambe izandla iyakwazi usuka nangaloo ndlela.
Is it possible to obtain residue on the following day?
As far as my knowledge goes, it would be highly unlikely to find enough.
So I'm not clear with the question. Are you referring to residue on the hands of the person who fired or residue on the body of the victim who was fired at?
I'm referring to residue that you would find on the body of the person who was firing.
Firing?
Firing.
The user of the firearm?
Yes.
Okay.
Utsho ke irhuluwa bhekisa athetha ngayo kanye lo mgubo lowo ophuma kumpungu lo usala kulo mntu udubulayo betshilo ke ngaphambili umnumzana uVessels into yoba bekufuneka ibinto eyenziwa ngokukhawuleza leyo kuba kuzokwazi ukufumaneka lo mgubo lowo ngokuba kungaba nzima into yokuba uzokwazi ukuyifumana xa lo mntu lowo uqale ke ngoku uzomhlola ujonge izinto ngemini kanye ngelanga elilandelayo.
Now, you also referred to tattooing. permit my ignorance. I don't know what is tattooing. Now, were you involved, let me start there, were you involved in the investigation, in the activities of the 16th, at any stage after the incident?
Not at all, no.
Uthi yena khangabe lingxalenye yegqiza la mapolisa besenza uphando ngale ngesehlakalo senzeke ngomhla we-16 ku-August.
Now, you also explained tattooing. Now, if there was any evidence, I'm just talking if, there was any evidence of tattooing on the body of a person, would I be correct to assume that that would mean that the person would have been fired at a close range?
That would be correct.
Uthi ke unyanisile ndoba uba benobona umuntu enenxeba elinombala obiza nge-tattooing bizaba into ebonisa intoba lo muntu udutyulwe ngumuntu ofuphi kuye nomnumzana uVessels uyavumelana naye kuba inyaniso lento leyo.
Now, if you could explain tattooing in like simple language so that we understand what would be the evidence of tattooing.
Tattooing, or the term tattooing, refers to small, irregular shaped wounds around the entrance wound on a body. These wounds are caused by partially burnt and unburnt powder particles that exit the barrel of the firearm. It does not always mean that all of the powder charge or the propellant charge in the cartridge case is completely burnt up during the firing process. Some of it is also expelled from the barrel. Some of them are partially burnt, some are not completely burnt or have not started to burn at all. As you can imagine, these particles are very light, and as they come into contact with the air, they tend to have a billiard ball effect and scatter. That is why it can only be found at a very close range shot. They produce small reddish-brown wounds around the entrance hole in a dispersion pattern.
Uchaze njalo ke na xa ezochaza ngale tattooing echaza intoba zizilonda ezincinci eziye zibe semntwini ecaleni kwenxeba elikhulu. Uthi ke loo nto ibangela into yokubana xa kuphuma ke le rhuluwa iye isasazeke ke enye iyakwazi ukube ibe itshile enye ingatshanga iba ke ibe ngunobangela wezo zilonda zincinci ziphuma ecaleni kwenxeba elikhulu lezo zilonda zincinci ke yeza zibiza i-tattooing ngesi.
Now, I've had sight at Exhibit II, your CV. Now, in that Exhibit II, you say, I have received in-service training in the following aspects of forensic ballistic science. Now, when you go to 2.1.12, you say short-range determination, and then 2.1.13, you say crime scene investigation and examination techniques. And then 2.1.14, taking of photographs and documentation of the results during an investigation. Now, if I can just fast forward, I just need to put this before I ask my question. At 2.5, you say terminal forensic ballistics, the wounding effect that the bullet has on a tissue, in the brackets, wound ballistics, the effect that the bullet has on the target, the effect that the target has on the bullet, and there you then proceed to say you visited the yes, different places. Now, what I want to probe with you is that if you look at the target that has been hit by a bullet, are you able to make a determination as to from which firearm the bullet would have been fired?
So yes, both yes and no in two statements. It's difficult to determine from an entrance hole itself to determine a caliber. the reasons for this is because the skin is elastic, and though the bullet tears a certain hole through it, the skin stretches. Also that we as humans are three-dimensional. We have curves and protrusions and angles which may affect even a straight-on looking shot to have an elongated area as it passes through a roundness on the body. It would be possible to say whether a high-velocity bullet, such as a rifle bullet, caused a particular type of wound versus whether a handgun or a shotgun pellet or a handgun bullet caused a certain wound. But it would be very difficult to determine a specific caliber from looking at the wound.
So you would be able to make a determination whether it would have been fired from a shotgun or maybe assault rifle. Do I understand you to?
It would be easy to, or not, I wouldn't call it easy, but it would give a relative accurate indication of whether it was a high velocity, like a rifle bullet, or a lower velocity, like a shotgun pellet or a handgun bullet.
Uthi ke bekunoba nobunzima into yokuba azokwazi ngexesha elinye engakumbi xa ijonga kunxeba apho imbumbulu engene khona uzochaza into yoba ngoluphi uhlobo lwembumbulu elisetyenzisiweyo njengoba wenza umzekelo wachaza into yoba ulusu lwethu luye lufane liyatsaleka ngelinye ixesha nokuthi izitho zethu zomzimba ziye zingafani zahlukile. So uthi ke ngamanye amazwi kuye kuxhomekeke kwisantya kodwa phinda lathi kakhona kuye kube nobunzima ngelinye ixesha into yoba uzochaza into yoba ngoluphi uhlobo lweganti elisetyenzisiweyo.
Mr. Chairman, I wish to refer the witness to several photographs, 3 of them. However, these photographs are not nice. So it's just a wish that a warning be given to. Yes, the interpreter will interpret. At the stage, we're going to refer to several photographs. And those photographs include those of Mr. Noki and 2 other bodies that I could not identify, but those bodies that passed on the 16th. So the photographs are not nice, so the families of those that passed on the 16th, if they could, we would give them a minute to leave the room.
Bazali.
If they wish, and of course, can you identify them to this extent? Can you say whether they were bodies found at scene 1 or scene 2? Because
is bodies found on scene 1?
Bazali, niyacela kwe ngokuzithoba into yokuba njengoba ngoku kuzobakho ifoto ezizawuthi zivezwe apha ezo foto ezo ngezabanye abantu abaye basweleka ngamhla we-16 ku-August. So xa uzazi uba usisalamane ulusapho lwabo ngokuba izifoto zizawuhlasimlisa umzimba uyacela into yoba uphumele ngaphandle ingakumbi usapho lwaka Noki kunye nabanye ababini abaye basweleka kodwa abo abachazwanga into yoba bangobani na. So xa uzazi uba uyachaphazeleka uyacelwa ngokuzithoba into yoba uphumele ngaphandle.
anyone who thinks that he or she will be distressed by these pictures will be given an opportunity to leave the auditorium. It will be for a minute, starting now.
Uthi ke naye umhlali ngaphambili uchairman into yoba wonke umuntu obona into yoba uyachaphazeleka kule nto iza kwenzeka okanye ulusapho uzophazamiseka emoyeni wakhe unikwa usukela ngokumzuzu ukuba uphumele ngaphandle. Kana ku go tla bontshiwa difoto tsa batho ba ne ba tlhokafala ka letlha leo la di 16 tsa August. Ga o itse gore o lesika la bona le gore wa itse gore o tla amega mo maikutlong ha o bona difoto tseo jaanong o fiwa nako ya gore o tswelle kontle ha le gore o lesika go sa o lapa la batho ba ba ile ba tlhokafala ka letsatsi leo la di 16 tsa August.
It's up since the interpreter stopped interpreting.
Yes.
So I take it anyone who wants to go has gone. So you may now proceed with your cross-examination.
I'm indebted to you, Mr. Chairman. Can we show the witness photo number 2735? These photos come from the SAPS hard drive under folder LCRC, and then they are titled Scene 2. Photo number 2735.
You said there was scene 1. This sounds like it's...
No, no, that's how they are described on the hard drive, but these are photos of Scene 1.
I see.
When you look at that particular photo, are you able to tell amongst the others the velocity of the bullet or bullets that hit the body and from which firearms they could have been fired from?
If I may request, it's a bit difficult to see from this angle.
Yes.
If we can maybe just, because at this stage, I'm having difficulty orientating the wound on the body.
Yes. If we can show the same photo and
Warrant Officer, if you want to get out of your chair for a moment, you're going to have a look at the screen and come back. Or perhaps it might be an idea, you're going to, in order to save time, if you can show a number of photographs.
That's what I'm doing,
Perhaps
Mr. Chairman.
he could go and stand near the screen, look at them, and then when you've shown the photographs, he can then return to the witness seat and proceed to give his answers.
Yes. In fact, in order to save time, we can show the witness photo number 2736. Perhaps maybe before you respond, just for the benefit of all of us, if you can be shown photo number 2739 so that you've got a broader perspective of these photos.
Uthi phambi baqhubekeke ucela igqithiselwe isiwe ku photo number 2739 ukwenzele abe no mifanekiso ingathi ingenelele phangalele.
No, that photo is not the same person, Brigadier.
Uyachekela photo ayinguye lamntu bebonisiwe kumfanekiso o ngaphambili.
May I interrupt you at the moment? These photographs are not yet before us, are they? They're just in the hard drive. So would you please arrange between now and Monday to have copies made from the hard drive of the photograph to which you are referring, and then speak to Ms. Pillay, and then she can arrange exhibit numbers. So as part of the housekeeping exercise on Monday, they can be handed in as exhibits and duly lettered, so that at a later stage when we revisit the evidence and read the transcript, we'll know what exactly you were referring to.
I'll do so, Mr. Chairman.
Chair, I don't know whether we need to go this graphic because the post-mortem reports do indicate whether these were high-velocity wounds or not. We have that evidence.
I'm inclined to agree with you, but the cross-examiner is entitled to ask the questions if he wants to. You hear the point Mr. Semenya makes. It's not disputed that the injuries to the people whose photographs you are now showing were caused by high-velocity assault rifles. That's not an issue in the case, as I understand it. But if you have a reason other than just getting that on record, to showing these photographs to the witness and asking for his views, I can't stop you. But it may well be that what you want to achieve is in fact common cause and will be readily admitted by Mr. Semenya. But
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate what Mr. Semenya is saying, but the witness that is before us is an expert. So if there was anyone who could give us better clarity, is this witness.
That can't be a good point. If you could have a most difficult point, which is the subject of debate, only a highly qualified expert can give evidence on that point. But if the other side get up and say, we admit that fact, then you don't need the highly qualified expert to confirm that the admission made is correct. Now, in this case, though this is not a court case, the party concerned on this part of the case is the police service. The police service counsel says, the fact you want to establish from this witness by these photographs, we are prepared to admit. That is, I understand, his case. So, as I said to you, if there's some reason other than simply establishing that fact, and it's something that this witness can help us on, I won't disallow the question. But if the only purpose is to establish as a fact that which Mr. Semenya is prepared to admit, then I fear that the valuable time of this commission is being unnecessarily used up.
Uthokena no commissioner indokuba ukuba lo mbuzo lowo kwicala labameli ba mapolisa usenior counsel Semenya engayiphiki ivuma into kuba lento iboniswa pha injalo inyaniso bayamkela nayo ayikho imfuneko yokubana kuhlalwe kugxiselelwe kuhlalwe kuwo kakhulu lo mbuzo into eyakwenzeka nje iya kube yincitha xesha.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll move to the next aspect.
Exercising a wise discretion.
Nango ke negqwetha liye lahla ngomcinga uvumelana kunye naye no commissioner.
Now, if I can take you a step back, earlier on you were asked how many shots could be fired from the assault rifle in a space of 8 seconds. Now, are you in a position to tell us in an estimated form how many shots would be fired from the assault rifle in a second if it is in fully automated mode?
I would say in a second, due to experiments that I've done myself, I've seen that it's possible to fire about between 4 and 7 rounds per second.
Uyatsho ke into yokuba kwezi kule mibhaxa ukuba ke wayiseta wayenza into yokuba ibe ku-automatic kuthi xa ucofile kuyo umbhaxa ukhuphe iimbumbulu ezininzi kumzuzwana omnye iyakwazi ukuthi idubule iimbumbulu izibene ukuya kwisixhenxe.
Just one last aspect. I want you to identify one rifle or firearm which was not identified. So I'd ask that you'd be shown a photo which appears to have been carried by the STF. If you can just play the photos. If we can start with this one, are you able to,
Can you identify the picture for us? Or will you be able to identify it for Ms. Pillay so that she can?
yes,
Edit-
Mr. Chairman, these photos come out of a folder. They're on the SAPS hard drive. They come out of a folder called BBC South Africa Loansmans Marikana Clashes. So I would arrange, I've already arranged them to be put on a separate folder. Yes.
I'm sorry, sir, are you referring to the pistol being fired or the rifle?
No, this one. You'll be shown two other photos.
On the photograph, there's someone holding a pistol, there's someone behind him holding a rifle. The question, the witness wants to know from you, are you asking me about the pistol or the rifle? Perfectly
I'm
fair
asking about the pistol. I'm asking about the pistol.
The image is slightly small. If I can just get up again.
Maybe just to save time, I would request that the witness be shown two other photographs so that he's able to identify that, and then we can respond to them, because that's my final question. Can you play the next photo?
Leya uyacela ke lona igqwetha into yokuba kudlalwe okanye kuboniswe ezinye zimbini zokugqibela ifoto ngoba imibuzo yakhe izobhekiselela kule mifanekiso afuna ivezwe apha.
And then the last photo.
The first firearm appears to be a Beretta PX4 pistol.
Le hlobo ke lwe machine gun sandovela ile ibizwa nge PX4.
I take it would be the one that you indicated in your evidence in chief that is one of the latest.
That is correct.
Uthi ngenye ngoluhlobo ngenye yohlobo begqiba ukuchaza ngalo namhlanje into yokuba bezisando akukudala zenziwe.
Does it appear in the document that we referred to in B59 where we saw several firearms? Does it appear there?
No, there is no photograph of that particular firearm.
Thank you.
Uthi ke ayikho ifoto eveza okanye ebonisa ola hlobo lwe machine gun.
Now, the second firearm on on photo number 2 that we were shown, were you able to identify which firearm is that?
That appears to be a R5 rifle.
Uthi ke yesibini machine gun le beyibonile kwifoto yesibini yile machine gun ibizwa iR5 ibizwa yona.
And then the firearm on photo number 3.
So unfortunately, that is beyond my expertise. The ballistic section only works up to a 12.7 millimeter. I unfortunately do not know a specific name for it. It appears to be a full automatic cannon of some sort. I also cannot really determine the caliber of the rounds from this particular angle. Unfortunately, it falls out of my scope of work again.
Uthi ke yena le akanalo ulwazi lwayo ngokuba usebenza kukufikelela kwezi kuthiwa i-12.7 millimeter, akayazi negama layo, kodwa akayazi namaqweqwe okanye ikhalibha yayo into yoba injani na, kodwa ke ibonakala into ekhupha imbumbulu, le ndlela ebizwa ngokuba ngesilungu i-fully automatic.
May I inquire whether it's suggested that that cannon-like firearm was used at Marikana during the period covered by this inquiry, namely this phase of the inquiry, from the 9th to the 16th of August this year?
No, that is not the evidence, Mr. Chairman. And that concludes my cross-examination.
Dike ayibubungqina bakhe ba lo hlobo we-machine gun wasetyenziswa nge-9 okanye nge-16
Then my
ka-August,
objection-
utsho ke ehla ngomcinga.
Then, Chair, my objection must be a very strong one. Why are we being shown an item of this type when it bears no relevance to the issues we're dealing with?
Mr. Chairman, the evidence was shown for two reasons. That, no, I'm saying the photographs were shown for two reasons. First, we earlier on referred to B59 and took considerable amount of time. Now, the first photograph, which depicts firearm PX4, does not appear in B59. Now, during the period of the 9th to the 16th, the firearm or the machine gun, I don't know what it is, which appears to have been carried by the members of the STF, is also not on B59. It is not for the purposes of saying that it was used. Now, that would tell you that B59 is incomplete.
I think the objection of Mr. Semenya relates to the cannon-like firearm. And I understand the point about the other firearms, which were allegedly used, admittedly used. I understand that. And I don't think the objection relates to them. The objection relates to the picture we're now seeing, which has a caption, "Police opened fire at South African miners." And there are people in what look like khaki uniforms, on camouflage uniforms, standing on what I think is the back of a vehicle of some sort, with a vehicle that looks like some kind of cannon. You were asked, is it suggested that a weapon of that kind was used, or a cannon of that kind was used, at Marikana from the 9th to the 16th of August? You say no. So Mr. Semenya says, well, what's the point of that? It might create a misleading impression in the media, but it certainly doesn't take the case any further as far as the inquiry on which we're engaged. He didn't quite say that, but I think that was what he was suggesting. Now, do you wish to answer that point?
Mr. Chairman, I thought I understood the evidence of the witness to be about weapons that are being used by the South African Police Service, because he's an expert. Now, that would have, in my view, included that particular firearm. Not that it was used during that particular period, to say in our possession, these are the firearms that we possess. Now, you would know that PX4 is not on, yeah.
Cannon-like firearm, what has it got anything to do with the inquiry on which we are presently engaged in regard to the questions to which we are asked to answer relating to what happened between the 9th and the 16th at Marikana?
Mr. Chairman, I would not take it any further.
No, can you take it any distance at all? Is it proper to try to take it any distance at all if it creates a thoroughly misleading impression?
Mr. Chairman, I've been very clear to say that it is not our suggestion that the firearm was used to kill the protesters. We are not saying that. We are saying...
What are you saying then?
What we are saying is that during the, if I can put it in a proper context, during the period of the 9th to the 16th, as is Mr. Semenya's case, the police put certain preparations, or they put certain arrangement in place. And one of those would have been that weapon that is carried by the STF. It's not a photograph that was taken elsewhere, other than at the scenes of Marikana. Now, I wouldn't understand.
It has a caption that says, police open fire on South African miners. Not that police put a weapon in place as some kind of defensive weapon. The suggestion is, police open fire at South African miners. That's what it says. That creates an impression, which I understand to be not an impression which you intend to create. You hasten to assure us that that's not so. So the question is, what's that doing before us?
Mr. Chairman, I believe Mr. Semenya's case is going to be that we put certain, we made certain arrangements, we call different units, and one of the units would be the STF. And when they were called, that is what they came carrying. And it does not take our case anywhere, but it is a fact that during the set period, when that photo was taken, they were there. I mean, I don't understand Mr. Semenya's objection, really. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
What do you say in response to what has now been
Chair, in that event, I request a direction from the Commission that this photograph must not be published in the media conveying the connotation that it was used at all. It is inflammatory and it's irrelevant to the proceedings.
I'm not sure that I have power to issue directions to the media as to how they are to report. But what I can do is I can say to them that we expect them to maintain the high standards which we normally enjoy from the media, that a picture of that kind with that caption, if published, would create, without any further comment, would create a misleading impression, and that I can say that if that were to be done, that would be improper journalism and would fall far short of the standards which one has come to expect from the media in matters of this kind. Is there anything you want me to add to that?
Nothing beyond
Did
that.
I overstate the case?
It can still be overstated.
Sorry?
It can still be overstated,
You say,
Chair.
no, overstatement, did I go too far? You mean I could have gone further, that's what you're saying. All right, the media representatives have heard what I had to say. I trust you won't disappoint us.
Njengoba gqibo ukutsho ke sibona uCommissioner naye njengokuba bekade ethetha na kwabendaba ngomfanekiso okhutshiweyo wala machine gun enkulu ibiphezu kwetraka nje masibona kwamapolisa anxibe impahla ezifana namajoni into bebuzwa igqwetha ngayo kulonto leyo into ba njengoba usenior council uSimenya bebuza ba lo mfanekiso ke ungenaphi apha kwelityala ngoba into anexhala layo kakhona uCommissioner ukuba izawwenza into abantu bazicingele ngendlela elahlekisayo ibe ngathi ngoku lanto bivezwe pha amapolisa asebenzayo wona la machine gun ukuhlasela abantu ngoko uye wathatha isigqibo naye igqwetheke kuloo ndawo leyo ukubahle ngomcinga ngoba into yena njengoba bekho ingxoxo mpikiswano bekhala ngayo igqwetha into yokuba kule B59 yephepha lencwadi apho kuvezwe khona zonke izimbumbulu nazigana bamachine gun lemibhaxa akukho apho lo PX4 kunye lanto ezivezwe khona ngoko ke baye bacela nabendaba into ba bangayipapashi lento kuyindaba nasemaphepheni ngokuba ibonakala ingumfanekiso lahlekisayo njengoba kubhaliwe ezantsi into kuba amapolisa aye aseMzantsi Afrika aye adubula abasebenzi emgodini.
Before we adjourn, I just want to ask, is anyone who wants to cross-examine? You've already had a chance. You didn't cross-examine, but you were afforded the opportunity. Yeah, anyway, the reason I asked the question is if no one else wants to cross-examine and there's no re-examination, we can excuse the witness. If someone wants to cross-examine, it can stand over till Monday.
Mr. Chairman, I want to cross-examine on behalf of the families. I was
Normally, counsel who appears for two parties even temporarily, only has one bite at the cherry. But if you
sorry,
overlook that,
Chairman.
I wouldn't want the family to be prejudiced. We'll adjourn till 9:30, no, sorry, we'll adjourn till 10 o'clock on Monday, and you can then cross-examine the witness. You'll be
Chairman.
back then, Warrant Officer. Thank you. Commissioner Adjourn.
Siyawuqhubekeka ngomvulo kakhona ngecala emva kwensimbi yeshumi.